Good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome to tonight's show. I am your host, Tina R. Dawson, and the owner of True Blue Designs. And it is truly an honor to be before you tonight to introduce to you one of our awesome clients. Make sure that you like this episode and like our page. You can also follow us on Instagram at True Blue Designs. So thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, like and share. Let everybody know that we're on. True Blue Designs was created 11 years ago. And we have now we're trying to focus on expanding our brand. And so we're going to be doing new things like this show to bring you information. Now, one of the things that I believe in is knowledge is power, but applied knowledge brings transformation. And I thought it would be neat to bring you or introduce to you some of our clients that are very knowledgeable in their areas of expertise and to get them to bring you information that can help you change or transform your personal or business um, self. So, without further ado, I want to introduce to you, read the bio of tonight's guest, Mr. John M. Turner Jr. John M. Turner Jr. is a native Atlantan who graduated cum laude from Morris Brown College and is also a graduate of the U.S. Army's Command and General Staff College and Military Judges School. In 1972, John was an honors graduate of the National Law Center, George Washington University School of Law. Currently, he is a doctoral student at St. Leo University, pursuing a Doctor of Criminal Justice degree. He has taught at many schools, including Emory Law School, Morehouse College, Clark Atlanta University, and John Marshall Law School. He has published numerous professional articles, including one that was printed in the prestigious FBI Enforcement Bulletin. John has received numerous awards for his community service and professionalism. He previously served as the elected general counsel for Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated for 20 years and was elected by the fraternity membership and general board to the Distinguished Service Chapter, which is the highest honor awarded to a member of the fraternity. John has worked as an assistant U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Georgia for 2 years, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office for 16 years, and the private practice of law as a criminal defense attorney for 25 years. He also served as a judge advocate general corps attorney in the Georgia National Guard for 22 years, retiring as a lieutenant colonel. His last private practice was the boutique law firm of Scott and Turner, which specialized in criminal defense and family law. And in January 2021, John will be joining the Fulton County District Attorney's Office as a deputy district attorney in the case intake section of the trial division. Help me give a warm welcome to tonight's guest, Attorney John Turner. Hello.
Hello.
How are
Thank
you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for such an inspiring introduction.
You are more than welcome. Well deserved. How is the family?
Everybody's doing fine, thanks, including the dogs.
I remember them. So we're going to start off by letting you, I know I read a little bit of your bio, but I want to start off by letting you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself.
All right. Well, to start off with, I'm a native Atlantan. And I say that within the context of I was born at the Grady's. And when I say Grady's, I say it plural. And I say it plural because that's the real mark of a native Atlantan of a certain age. When I was born, there were two different wings to Grady, one white, one black. So that's why it is said grades in terms of a certain age group. So I was born at the greatest. I
Okay.
went to Henry Turner McNeil High School,
Okay.
and then Morris Brown, and you've given pretty much the rest of the bio in terms of the schools that I've attended.
Okay. So where did your passion for law come from? Where did that start?
Well, it didn't start off as a passion. Uh, when I was in the fourth grade, my mother bought me an instrument and I learned how to play alto sax at the E.C. Clement Elementary School. I played in the band from fourth grade through graduation from elementary school. When I got to Turner High, I joined the marching band there, and I played in that from, I guess, my uh, first year through graduation. And along the way, thought I was pretty good at it. So much so that I decided I wanted to be a band director. And that was why I selected Morris Brown College based on their music program. So, bottom line is, I went to Morris Brown. And after the first year, I decided that I really didn't have the music theory skills to be a band director. And I didn't want to leave the city in terms of being able to teach at any particular school, which 9 times out of 10 as a journeyman band director you'd have to do. So at that point, I decided to go to the placement office and look at other careers. And in doing so, I discovered that in order to be an FBI agent, you had to be either a lawyer or an accountant. And I decided to go to law school because I wanted to be an FBI agent. So that's why I said it wasn't about a passion for law per se. It was a desire to be an FBI agent. So that's what pointed me in the direction of law.
Really? That is interesting.
Well, uh, after I got to law school, then I decided I wanted to make money and be a corporate lawyer. And my first job out of law school was with the Securities and Exchange Commission, which
Mhm.
is kind of like the holy grail for corporate law. I worked for them for a year in their general counsel office and discovered that corporate law bored me to tears. I left Washington, which, my law school was located in Washington, D.C. I left Washington and came back home to Atlanta and got a job as a federal prosecutor with the U.S. Attorney's Office. And there I found what I like to do. And I've been doing criminal law ever since 1973. So the
Wow.
passion developed after I became a federal prosecutor.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, let's talk about your experience as a professor. How's that been?
Well, I've taught over 20 years at various schools. I taught at Morris Brown. I've taught at Clark, Atlanta, taught at Morehouse. I taught at Emory Law School, John Marshall Law School, and St. Leo College. I mean, St. Leo University, actually. And as you point out, now I'm a doctoral student at St. Leo University. I've always enjoyed multiple careers. As you point out, I was a military officer for a number of years. So basically, I did two or three things at once. When I was either in private practice or working for the DA's office, I was also teaching and I was also in the National Guard at the same time.
Wow. Yeah. You were busy.
But I enjoyed it. I like activity.
Yeah. Now you mentioned that you are now in school getting your doctoral degree, and I want to talk about your dissertation topic. It's exploring issues concerning serial killers. Why did you choose that topic, and why was that interesting to you?
On two or three different levels. The first level is that as a very young child, my first concept of crime was a serial killer and serial murder. Of all things, a serial killer lived across the street from me when I was a child, uh, directly across the street. That's right. In 1952, This lady was charged and convicted for murdering some of her relatives. She was what would be known as a Black Widow serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
She was murdering her relatives, her husband, and other relatives to collect on life insurance. So my first concept of crime was I knew who she was. I mean, I was about 5 at the time, I guess, and you know who your neighbors are across the street. But listening to the adults talk about it, because it was covered extensively, local news as well as the Black newspapers throughout the country. So like I said, my very first concept of crime was murder, serial murder, and this particular lady. When I joined the DA's office, I pretty much specialized in murder cases. I prosecuted a ton of murder cases. And during that process, I also prosecuted at least 3 or 4 serial murderers here in Atlanta. Atlanta has a long history of serial murder. In
Yeah.
fact, the first Black serial murder case in Atlanta took place in about 1911. Women who worked as Black women who worked as domestics were murdered, and they never came up with a suspect in that particular matter. Uh, like I said, there have been numerous other serial killers in Atlanta besides Wayne Williams, and that depends on how you define his case. But more specifically, one serial killing case that I handled involved a man who lured homosexuals in the boulevard area of town to locations with, I guess, a promise of purchasing sex from them, who then turned around and murdered them.
Wow.
Another serial killing case that I handled was the elderly ladies in Vine City who were murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so those are 2 serial murder cases that I handled myself. Uh, so that piqued my interest. Then there's a third aspect to it. Basically, when you talk about serial killing, and when it comes to Black people, there are a lot of misconceptions. For instance, most people, when they think of serial killers, think of white males, and that's been a myth that's been perpetuated by the FBI and their profiling techniques.
Wow.
The truth of the matter is that there are many Black serial killers. In fact, the most prolific serial killer in American history is a Black male. So while the popular view of serial killers is somebody like Hannibal Lecter,
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole subgenre that deals with Black people that has not been properly profiled and investigated. So that, I guess, all of that goes into my interest with the topic of serial killers, as well as the fact that, like I said, I've done a lot of murder cases and kind of specialized in that area. So I think there's a need for additional scholarship in that area so that Black serial murder can be properly investigated when it's presented. And I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Uh, Samuel Little is the Black man who killed 92 or 93 people by his own admission. Uh, he wasn't on anybody's radar. He traveled around the country by car, killing women in just about every state in the union, including Georgia. He was able to get away with it for over 30 years because nobody was looking for a Black serial killer, and the victims that he picked were usually prostitutes that the police didn't connect to Black to serial killing. So the bottom line is there's a definite need for scholarship in that area.
And how did he get caught?
He got caught on one case and made a deal with the prosecuting authorities throughout the country that if he would come clean and give statements about the murders that he committed, he wouldn't be prosecuted for them. Inevitably, they get caught. They'll
Yeah.
make a mistake in one case, and that leads to the rest of them usually.
Did in that particular situation, did he tell them where he buried the bodies or anything like that so the families can get some type of peace about their loved one?
Well, in a lot of cases, they recovered a body, but they just didn't associate it with a serial killing.
Okay, okay, got it, got it, got it. Wow. um, in the bio, it said that you had published an article for the FBI Law Enforcement Bulletin.
Yes, that was a management type article.
Okay.
The FBI Law Enforcement Bulletin is probably the premier law enforcement magazine in the country, and they publish articles that deal with law enforcement management issues as well as general crime detection issues. In fact, I expect to submit an article to them about black serial killers in the not too distant future. But like I said, that was a management article that stemmed from a project that I had when I was getting my master's degree in criminal justice administration from Clark Atlanta University.
Okay. Okay. Well, the next thing on my list is that you are a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Now,
That's correct.
let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, remember I told you that I played in the band. I
Right.
was a part of the Marching Wolverines band.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I've always been active and aggressive, and by that I mean the way I got into the band was I was in high school and I decided I wanted to go to Morris Brown and be in that band. So one day I just got on the bus and rode to Morris Brown and went and met the band director and told him
Wow.
what I was interested in doing, and he let me start playing with the band at that point. So I was in high school getting ready to graduate, but I'm playing in Morris Brown's concert band. Well,
Wow.
the bottom line out of all of that was I got two scholarships to Morris Brown, one for band and one academic.
Mm-hmm.
So as a band member, you come in contact with, I guess, a wide variety of students. You know, you have the freshmen through seniors.
Mm-hmm.
And in that group, you also have fraternity and sorority members. So as a band member, I'm looking at the different Greek letter organizations. And the one that seemed to fit my personality best was Phi Beta Sigma. So I gravitated to Sigma as a result of the influence that I observed in band members who were also members of the fraternity. One of the things my mother stressed was get your education. That's one thing they can't take from you. Phi
Mm-hmm.
Beta Sigma has always had a tradition of high academic standards, and that was another thing that appealed to me about the fraternity. So, based on the type of leadership I saw from the students in the band, as well as the general behavior and decorum and the educational standards of the fraternity, I decided I wanted to join Phi Beta Sigma, and in 1966 I did.
Okay, 1966. Now, one question: what instrument did you play in the band?
Alto saxophone.
Oh wow, wow! Do you still
Oh,
have one?
and
Do you ever play today?
no, I don't. But one other probably little known fact about that is that while I was in college, I played in a rhythm and blues band around Atlanta. In fact, one of the main places we used to play was the American Legion on Simpson Street.
Uh huh.
So, which was the equivalent of a bucket of blood. But, A, I was getting paid, and B, I enjoyed it. And as a band member playing in a club like that, there were a lot of residual female benefits that came out. So I was in my element. Uh, that was a part of my life that I thoroughly enjoyed. And one of the people I met was Billy Wright. Billy Wright is who Little Richard patterned himself after. He was the MC at the American Legion. So got a chance to see some real old school rock and roll types there. But another aspect of my life was that I was a professional rock and roll musician.
Well, I hope Brother Corey Staten is watching this because he leads a rock band, so I'm sure
Yeah,
he's going to be
and
very interested to hear this.
yeah, and again, that's something that few people know. Not that it was ever a secret, but
Right,
unless you knew me at that period in time,
right.
uh, it's something that just rarely comes up in conversation. And I've talked to Corey and teased him about his playing, but now that you mention it, I never told him that I did or the context of what I did in that regard.
Wow. Well, now he knows it's out now.
Yep.
Okay, so my next question is you have been inducted into the Distinguished Service Chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And can you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, the Distinguished Service Chapter is the highest honor that Phi Beta Sigma can bestow upon a member. Phi Beta Sigma is basically, come January, will be 107 years old.
Mhm.
There are less than 200 total members of the Distinguished Service Chapter, and that counts those who are living and those who are deceased. So, less than 200 members of Phi Beta Sigma in its 107-year existence have
Wow.
been members of the Distinguished Service Chapter. In order to get that honor, you have to be nominated by your local chapter.
Okay.
uh, it has to be seconded by your state chapter, and it has to be adopted by your regional uh, organization. The regional organization then forwards it to the international organization, and the general board uh, forwards it to the general membership, and they vote on it. So it's a difficult and involved procedure. And as I said, only less than 200 people have been made members of the Distinguished Service Chapter during the history of Phi Beta Sigma. So it's one of the major honors that I've received, and I'm quite humbled by that experience.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And I know a handful of DSC members, and they're all great people. And while we're talking about the DSC, when I first met you, probably 10 years ago, you came to me to work with you on a project. And the project was to do the medals for the
Correct.
for the honor, the DSC honor when you induct them into the organization. So can we talk a little bit about that project that you had me to work with you on and why that was important to you?
Yes, basically, we had not, the Distinguished Service Chapter didn't have a specific pen or anything of that nature. And I knew your work in terms of being able to come up with good designs and interesting concepts. So I approached you in that regard and told you what I had in mind, and you then took the idea and ran with it and designed the badge and
The
well,
medal.
let's see, metal. Yeah,
Yeah.
you designed the metal, and now all Distinguished Service Chapter members receive one when they enter the organization. So that's the official medal for the Distinguished Service Chapter, and we have you to thank for that.
Well, thank you for allowing me to work with you on that project. I was so honored when you came to me. But it was funny because I was thinking about this the other night. We were at an event together, and you sketched it out on a napkin. I don't know if you remember that. You sketched it out on a napkin, and you said that you were going to be getting with me because you had an idea. And I remember that. And then I think you printed it out on a piece of paper. And then when we finally met, you had gave it to him a piece of paper. And I remember so vividly that you had sketched it out on a napkin. And then when you printed it, I was like, wow. I mean, it was the exact same. So thank you so much for allowing me to work with you on that project. When you induct the gentleman into DSC, of course, I'm not able to be there. I tried to be at, I think, the one before Ray Smith, and that was Michael Hines. And but it's like every time that you do the induction ceremony, it's like a piece of me is there. So I
Well,
appreciate.
you're right. I had forgotten the sketching part because we basically had a logo, but like I said, we never had a medal and we hadn't had a pen.
Yeah.
So
Uh-oh, did you freeze on me? I think he froze. Well, if you're just now joining us, we are interviewing attorney John Turner tonight. And there he is. Are you back?
we're back.
Can you hear me? Okay, you're back. Well, thank you again for letting me work with you on that project. Um, I want to talk to you about 2012, and the case of Adrian Spelling. Now, I'm familiar with this case a little bit because in 2012, his sister and mother owned a hair salon off of Covington Highway. And I remember he used to come, in and out of the salon and speak to everybody. And at that time, he was training to go to the Olympics in karate. And he was accused of, I guess, sexual assault of a minor. And I went and I was getting my hair done every 2 weeks. And so I saw the family and what they went through in this process. And I remember one day I was in there getting my hair done, and the mother was just, she was at her wits' end, Attorney Turner. And she was just saying that she didn't know what she was going to do. And she was complaining about the attorneys. And then a couple of weeks later, I went back in, and the mother and the sister was playing all kinds of upbeat music, and they were so um, happy. And I asked, I said, did anything happen, on the case? And she said, yes. She said, we end up hiring a new attorney. And at this time, she never mentioned the person's name. Never. So she said, we end up finding a new attorney, and I think everything is going to be okay. So a couple of days later, I turned on Channel 5, and they showed a back version. They showed a shot from the back of your head while you were in the courtroom. And I stopped in my track and I said, no, it can't, it can't be. And then they showed the front shot of you, and I bust out laughing. And I said, well, I know what this was going to happen here. And what I thought was going to happen did. So my question is, what what were you able to do for Mr. Spelling that the other attorneys weren't able to do to get his case? I guess it was thrown out.
The prosecutor ended up dismissing the case. Well, let me back up for a minute. Uh, I've been practicing law as of next month, 49 years.
Wow.
And during that time, both with the DA's office as well as when I was in private practice, I've been fortunate enough to handle a lot of high profile cases. In fact, most of the murder cases that I handled in the DA's office were high profile in terms of reported on the news media.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in private practice, I developed 2 or 3 specialties. Didn't intend to, it just worked out that way. One specialty is in child molestation or sexual assault,
Okay.
and the other is DUI. Uh, DUI is highly technical. In fact, the DUI case is as technical as a death penalty case. And I might add that I've prosecuted and defended probably 6 or 7 death penalty cases. I'm digressing a little bit, and I get back to the point you asked specifically. But as a defense lawyer, I defended 3 death penalty cases, and one of them actually got executed. That case involved an armed robbery where the client shot a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
As a prosecutor, I prosecuted 3 death penalty cases, and there's someone sitting on death row now waiting for his execution date. So, like I said, I just had the good fortune to handle a lot of high profile cases. Now, like I said, one of the areas that just kind of developed was rape and child molestation. What happened in Adrian Spelling's case is that his original lawyer tried the case and got a mistrial, meaning a hung jury.
Okay.
Now, he didn't do a bad job in the case. I mean, as I understand it, it was hung 11-1 for acquittal.
Oh,
But
okay.
I don't know how he got betwixt and between with the family. Because, like I said, as far as I could see, he did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not always the story. Sometimes it's about how you interact with the client or the personalities meshing.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever happened, they became dissatisfied with the attorney and they came to me.
Okay.
After I reviewed the case, I told them that I would take it and we went to trial on the case.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Once again, the jury mistried it, meaning they couldn't reach a verdict.
Okay.
Uh, Basically, in a child molestation case, and this wasn't a young child, this was someone who was a student. The act of molestation was supposed to have happened at his karate dojo or gym at a
Right.
time when other classes were going on.
Right.
So this
Right.
didn't happen in some back room or something like that. The victim and the witnesses were probably 10 or 11 years old, so they were considerably more sophisticated than a 5 or 6 year old. And there was no evidence of any act of molestation. It basically boiled down to he say, she say. So,
Mm-hmm.
in order to convict him, you'd have to believe that he took liberties with an 11-year-old at a karate studio while other classes were going on and people could have walked into the room where they were at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line was, like I said, the jury couldn't reach a verdict. This case took place in DeKalb County, and the person who prosecuted it was their resident expert on that type of case, and she was extremely good. In fact, she's a Zeta.
Oh.
Yeah, and she's the incoming DA in Douglas County now, so she'll be getting sworn in a couple of days as DA there.
Okay.
And of course, we knew that about each other. She knew I was Sigma. I knew she was Zeta. We had a interpersonal relationship, which didn't have anything to do with the facts of the case, because first and foremost, she was a prosecutor and she was a true believer, meaning if a child said that they were molested, they were molested. Now,
Mm-hmm.
let's back up. If you got a case that you tried twice and a jury can't reach a verdict, that tells you you got a rotten case, okay?
Okay.
And she finally came to that conclusion based on, I guess, two facts. Fact number one is the case was tried twice and the jury couldn't reach a verdict. Fact
Okay.
number two, if there was going to be a retrial, I was going to do it, and she had already seen that particular act and didn't want any more of it. So she agreed to dismiss the case, and that's how it got resolved.
Okay. So
So, bottom line is he was lucky. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna ask once the case is dismissed, he can't be retried anymore, correct?
He could be retried, but in a case like that, no. I mean,
Okay.
the whole thing came down to the jury didn't believe the testimony of the alleged victim.
Okay.
That was reasonable doubt. I just put it that way.
Okay.
So it
Well,
wasn't going to get any better.
we're gonna get any better. Okay. Yeah. So well, I
Like I
know
said, she had seen the act.
yeah, yeah. When he got out, the next time I went back to get my to see his sister to get my hair done, he was in the shop and he was thanking everybody for their support and going on and on and on about his new attorney. And I sat there, I
Well,
didn't say a word. I didn't say a word. I just kept it to myself that I knew you. But I was like, yeah, they was ranting and raving about you. Yes, and that's the only one of your cases that I think that's the only one of your cases that I actually, you know how you can play 6 degrees of separation. That I knew something about personally because I had inter I knew the family through the hair studio.
Well, I say this tongue in cheek. Uh, I don't keep up with Mr. Spelling other than with Facebook friends, okay?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I thought maybe I had helped him avoid a fate that might have, well, I put it this way. Apparently, he's politically conservative. He's a Trump supporter, and
Okay.
I'm not. And we had a few exchanges, good-natured exchanges, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, bottom line is I had some second thoughts after
Okay. I'm back. I think Attorney Turner's going to come back in.
okay, we're back.
Okay, we're back. For those of you just joining us, we are talking to Attorney John Turner. Um, and if you have any questions for Attorney Turner, go ahead and put them in the comments, and we'll get to them close to the end of the show and let him answer some of your questions. Make sure you like and share, and let everybody know that we are on. Okay. Now this question I really want to talk about. So in 2020, we had the Fulton County District Attorney's election, and it was Fannie Willis versus Paul Howard. And I saw the election results, and Attorney Willis won by a landslide. And my question to you is, why was this such an important election? And what statement do you think voters made by choosing Willis, Attorney Willis?
Okay, well, to answer that, we need to go back a little bit. The Lewis Slayton was the district attorney for, I believe, 30 plus years in Fulton County.
Mm-hmm.
And that's who I worked for, along with Paul Howard. Paul Howard and I both worked for the Fulton County DA's office at roughly the same period of time. In fact, we shared office together.
Okay.
At one point, we lived on the same street and went to the same church.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the bottom line is this, though. Paul went on and ran for Fulton County Solicitor General. He left the DA's office. He got elected as Fulton County Solicitor General, and I was still at the DA's office.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, what year was that? In 1996, Paul Howard, Louise Hornsby, and myself all ran for DA at the same time.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So Lewis Slayton decided he didn't want to run for re-election, and that threw it open, and the three of us threw our hats into the ring. So I was in the first group of people who ran for Fulton County DA.
Okay.
So I say that to kind of lay the groundwork for both my knowledge of Paul as well as the circumstances that at one point we were political rivals in that regard. Fast forward, after Paul got elected, some people would say that he was a micromanager, and I'll be frank to say that I'm one of those people. As a result of being a micromanager, he had trouble keeping personnel. The Fulton County DA's office was like a revolving door. He couldn't keep qualified lawyers. And that's not just my opinion. There were newspaper articles written on it at the time.
Okay.
So the bottom line is that as long as he's been DA, there have been issues and allegations of micromanagement as well as other improprieties which came up during this election cycle. Uh, by virtue of the fact that 70% of the voters turned Paul out, I think that made a very strong statement in terms of the fact that they didn't appreciate how the office was being run on one side of the coin. They didn't appreciate the allegations of misuse of funds that were diverted from a 501c3 to Paul's personal use. And all of those, as well as the handling of the police shooting that occurred back a few months ago. Fonnie Willis is going to do an outstanding job. She's a progressive prosecutor. She's a good leader. In fact, as you point out, I'll be going to work for her. I expect to be sworn in either this month or the 1st of February. So okay. I'm so impressed with her leadership and the direction she wants to take the office that I'm joining the office and I'll be working as a deputy district attorney for her.
Okay, we're back. Well, congratulations. Congratulations.
Yeah, well, I'm back.
Congratulations. Okay, so I want to know, what is the job of the Fulton County DA's office and who do they serve?
Okay, well, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office prosecutes all felony offenses that occur in Fulton County. Okay. So basically, they are responsible for law enforcement and the quality of justice that exists in Fulton County. And that's where the issue of what a progressive prosecutor is about these days. Okay. And when I say these days, recently, the Los Angeles County District Attorney got sworn in at the beginning of December. Mm-hmm. And at the time of his swearing in, he came forth with a bunch of policy changes. One of them, for instance, is he's not going to ask for the death penalty in any cases in the future. Another is he's going to do away with the requirement for cash bonds for certain low-level offenses. There's a whole slew of, I guess you could say, judicial innovations that progressive prosecutors are keying in on to do away with mass incarceration. So that's where the function, or the, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word, the attention of progressive prosecutors is focusing upon.
Okay. So that's important, because when it's time for you to, when it's election time and it's time for you to vote in a DA, because they're elected officials, correct?
They're elected officials, but they very rarely get voted out of office because most people don't pay attention to them.
Okay. And I think that's an issue too, because I remember when you had the conversation with me that, we need to find out and research, if our DAs are progressive or non-progressive. And that would tell you how they're going to, their tenure is going to be in that particular position.
Well, one of the interesting things that happened in the last election is that just about every DA in the metro area is Black now. Wow. Gwinnett County had one of the longest serving DAs in the history of the metro area. He got voted out in favor of a Black female. Like I said, you name the metro area, they got a Black DA there now. In fact, in Cobb County, the DA there had just been appointed, a Black female Republican had just been appointed as DA and had to run for office. She was defeated by a Black male Democrat. So like I said, DeKalb, you name it, they are Black DAs throughout the metro area. Clayton County, Henry County, Gwinnett County, you name it.
Wow. Okay, so every county has a district attorney.
Not every county. Okay. In in different parts of the state, each county had, well, let me back up. Judicial circuits are the geographical area that DAs serve. Okay. Now, in Atlanta, you only have the Atlanta Judicial Circuit where the Fulton County DA serves. But in some other areas, you might have 3 or 4 counties lumped together in terms of a particular judicial district. So some DAs serve 3 or 4 counties. In the metro area,
Okay.
in the metro area, they tend to serve just that particular location. Like Gwinnett only has one location, DeKalb, Cobb, but throughout the rest of the state, it's lumped into judicial districts.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. What is the difference between an attorney general and a DA?
Well, the attorney general usually represents the state, or in the federal case, the United States, whereas the district attorney represents the prosecutive functions of a particular judicial district. The attorney general handles both civil as well as criminal cases, whereas the DA's office generally handles only criminal cases. They do child support, which can become criminal in certain aspects, but the main difference is the attorney general represents the state or the federal government justice department, whereas the district attorney represents prosecutions in a specific judicial district.
Okay. Okay. Now, while we're talking about that, let's talk just a little bit about the Breonna Taylor case. The general decision of the Attorney General's statement or ruling. Why do you think we keep seeing officers not being prosecuted for crimes similar to the Rayshard Brooks or the Breonna Taylor? Why do you think that happens?
Well, there's several reasons for why that happens. The first reason has to do with the relationship of the district attorney's office to the police department. The district attorney's office works usually hand in glove with the police departments. That is, they make arrests and cases and they bring them to the DA's office. So there's a strong working relationship between the DA and the police department. That's one reason. A second reason has to do with what's known as qualified immunity, meaning that police officers have a limited form of immunity from prosecution if they're performing their judicial or performing their arrest functions. Now, the most powerful actor in the criminal justice system is the district attorney. And the reason for that is the DA decides who to charge, what to charge, and they usually recommend what the sentence is going to be at the end of the day for that charge. The judges don't have that authority. The police don't have that authority. Traditionally, the relationship, in my opinion, between the police and the DA is incestuous, and the DAs are reluctant to bring charges against the police in that regard. Now, that's one difference in terms of how I think Fani Willis is going to handle business once she is sworn in as DA. She said repeatedly that there's not going to be any, and she didn't use the word, it's my word, incestuous relationship between her office and the police, that if they violate the law, they will be prosecuted. So that's the starting point. A third factor is juries. It's difficult to get convictions against police officers. Not impossible, but difficult. And depending on the type of jurisdiction, I mean, if it's a rural jurisdiction, it's going to be extremely difficult. In a metro area, not so much so, but when you add all of those factors together, that's why you rarely get police prosecuted for crimes and while they're in office.
So
But I think that's going to change.
yeah, I have a quick question. So, and we talked about this, but I just want to go through it again. So in the Breonna Taylor case, the attorney general had presented evidence to a jury to determine whether or not to prosecute the police officers. Am I right?
He presented evidence to a grand jury. There are two
To a
different
grand jury.
types of juries.
Okay.
There's the petty jury, which is made up of 12 people, and they determine guilt or innocence. The
Okay.
grand jury is made up of usually 20 to 23 people. And their purpose is to hear evidence presented by the prosecutor and some law enforcement agency and decide if there's probable cause to believe that a crime has been committed. If they believe that there's probable cause that a crime has been committed, they return a formal charge, which is known as an indictment. And that's
okay.
right. That's the beginning of the criminal justice process. You get the arrest, and then when the prosecutor presents it to the grand jury, if they indict it, you get an indictment, which is the formal charging document.
Okay. And so if they would have agreed to indict the police officers, then that's when the DA picks it up?
Well, in this particular case, they made the attorney general the special prosecutor.
Okay. Okay, that a question just came in, and it says from Rebecca, it says, can the DA's office refuse a case?
The DA can do whatever they want to do. That's how powerful they are. When you say refuse, I mean, the case can be referred to the DA's office, and the DA can say, we've reviewed it and we don't think that there's sufficient evidence, so we're not going to present it to the grand jury. That's why I say, again, the DA is the most powerful actor in the criminal justice system.
Wow.
The only thing that you can do to a DA to affect how they do their job is to vote them in or out of office.
That's it.
That's it. Once they're in office, they can do whatever they want to do, and they're only subject to possibly a voter recall, which I've never seen that done, but they are the ultimate authority on what cases go forward and how they go forward. And like I said, in 9 out of 10 cases, their recommendation is what the judge imposes for a sentence.
So even though we elect them, who do they report to? Do they report to the mayor or the governor or
nobody?
Are you
serious? They don't have their boss is the electorate or the voters.
The voters.
That's correct.
So that's why you said that we have to vote them in and vote them out.
That's correct, because they don't have anybody who oversees what they do. They make the decisions.
I did not know that. That's why it's important to make sure we research these candidates when we're going to vote. Do you agree?
I agree, but in Paul Howard's case, he ran unopposed for most of his career.
Right, correct. Yeah. So if you don't have anybody running against him, then
and in most instances you don't.
Right, correct. Make sure everybody put your comments. We're towards the end of the show, but put your comments in. Make sure you put your questions in the comment section, because we try to get your questions. Yeah, Rebecca said, wow, I had no idea. Now, I have one question for you, because I had a 2-hour conversation with somebody about this today. So in 2019, I went to a women's conceal and carry class. It was a 2-hour class downtown Atlanta, because I was thinking about purchasing a firearm. And before I did that, I wanted to take this class to really get the ins and outs from a expert, on what to expect, as far as law is concerned, if I was to purchase a firearm. So the one thing that this gentleman kept talking about, Attorney Turner, is that if you pull that trigger, you need to make sure you have probable cause to pull the trigger. And even if somebody breaks into your house and say that they're fleeing from you, and you pull the trigger and you shoot them in the back, you're wrong for that.
That's correct. Uh, First of all, probable cause only applies to law enforcement. Uh,
Okay.
Self-defense is the principle that would apply in terms of the use of force or the proper use of force by an individual.
Okay.
So if you fear for your life or that you're going to be experiencing great bodily harm, you're justified in using whatever force is necessary to protect you in that regard. But the
Okay.
Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, has said that if someone is running away from you, unless you can demonstrate that they pose a threat or danger to someone else, neither you nor police are justified in shooting them at that point. So
Okay.
neither the police nor a private individual has the right to shoot somebody who's running away, as long as they're not constituting a threat or danger to that person or anybody else.
Okay. So I'm glad you said that, because this was the whole conversation that I had this afternoon. So if that is the case, and we see video footage of some of the things that the police have done, and it shows that the person was fleeing. Sometimes they're far from them and they shoot them in the back. Now, why is it that if I did something like that and I'm a regular citizen, that I would be quickly prosecuted versus if the police does it? It seems like it's so many loopholes that they don't get prosecuted. And that was the conversation I was having this weekend. I
Well,
mean,
it's two different standards.
okay,
I mean, so far as the police are concerned, remember that depending on who you're talking about, if you're talking about in Buckhead, it's officer friendly. If you're
okay,
talking about Bankhead, it's officer Billy Club.
okay,
So how individual groups of people perceive the police drives what juries are going to say about whether their behavior was reasonable or not.
okay. Even if the footage is clear.
Well, when you say clear, going back to the situation we had recently in Atlanta, all I know about it is what I saw in terms of Paul Howard's dog and pony show on TV.
Are you talking about
And
Richard Brooks?
right. And I
Okay,
came away from that confused. I mean, when I say confused, it depends on what camera angle you're looking at. It depends on what the camera angle is.
right,
Uh, if in his case, it's clear that he turned around and fired a taser at the
right.
police.
Mm-hmm.
The question is going to be, is a taser a dangerous weapon?
Okay,
Uh, Clearly, the police could have handled that differently. They knew who he was. They knew where he lived. They could have let him run away and got him the next day. So, I all I know is what I saw, and what I saw left more questions than it resolved.
okay. We have one question from Marvella, a viewer. She said, "What does it take to have a case investigated by the GBI when the DA mishandles a case?"
Well, first of all, you'd have to show that there was some criminal violation or potential criminal violation. So without that, the GBI wouldn't get involved.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, the greatest weapon or authority that a DA has is what's known as prosecutorial discretion, meaning it's entirely up to them whether to dismiss, go forward, or prosecute a case. So
Okay,
unless you can show some criminal angle to it, the GBI wouldn't have any basis to investigate, and the DA has the authority to make up their individual mind about the merits of the case.
okay. And we have one more question. This is going to be the last one. This is from Rebecca. It says, "How do you follow the record or case outcomes of a particular DA?" She says, "People tend to just vote by name recognition and campaigns and we see are not always truthful. How do voters get better information?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer because on the one side of the coin, the high profile cases always leave a trail because they get reported in the news media, in the newspaper, or on TV.
Okay.
Probably 98% of what they do, the public is unaware of unless you're the victim in the case.
Okay.
So that's a very difficult proposition. In my 49 years of practice, the only time the DA gets in trouble is when they screw up a high profile case, and that's what drives some of them out of office.
Okay.
Otherwise, they get away with murder if they're so inclined to act that way.
Wow. Well, Attorney Turner, you have given us a lot of information and a lot of knowledge. Thank you so much for agreeing to be
My pleasure.
interviewed. And thank you for being an awesome client to True Blue Designs. And I look forward to working with you in the future. And congratulations again on joining the Fulton County District Attorney's Office in 2021. I am so excited about that. They need you.
Well, thank you.
They need you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to tonight's show. We will see you next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. If you have any other questions for Attorney Turner, go ahead and put them in the comments, and I'll make sure that he gets them, and I'll make sure that he gets the answer to you. Good night and happy holidays. Happy New Year. We're signing off. Thank you, Attorney Turner.